Today I'm going to do a little show and tell about the 19th century trombone. I've got one here from the 1850s, and I've got another one from the 1840s. Now, the reason I got some of these is because for years I had heard of that good old German trombone sound and attributed to thin metal, soft alloy, providing greater saturation and all of that. So I thought, I'm going to have to get me some. So I did. And this is an E. Paulus of Berlin. Um, First thing I'm going to show you is it's got heckle snakes on the end. Those are little heckle snakes. And they got little faces on them and everything. I don't know if that shows up right. And you notice no water keys. They weren't put on the horns yet. There was the odd one. And they were, every so often somebody says they were invented in the 1880s or something like that. But then somebody shows an instrument from 100 years before that has water keys. So, I think it's safe to say that you're talking the difference between one-offs and or close to it and production models. Um, Now, another thing about this horn, if I move it around here, this here is called tab seam construction. And what they did was when they were working the sheet metal, they would have like little fingers, and then they'd stick them together and then apply heat and then bash, 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 and more heat and bash, 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 bash. And that's how they made the seams on these old horns, not like today. Um, Now, this horn, the slide is virtually stuck, so I'm not going to try, and it's too cramped in here to try playing it, so I'm not going to do a demonstration today, but that's coming. Um, Now, if you look at the sleeves or the sleeves, if you look at the slide, it's the inner slide. It's brass, not like today, and it's relatively smooth. But stainless steel wasn't invented back then, I don't think. Um, and slides back then were made of brass, and it's reversible, so it's cylindrical tubing. As I say, this is an E. Paulus of Berlin. It needs a lot of work. It hasn't been sent in for restoration yet. The bell material is very delicate, very thin. It's kind of the consistency of heavy cardboard, and it looks like uh, the kind of color you'd see on a Christmas tree ornament. So anyway, that is the 19th century Germanic uh, tenor slide trombone. And now, here we have, this is one of my final restoration projects. This is an 1845 uh, F coil contrabass trombone. Now, a word from our sponsor. No. A word about the term contrabass in the 19th century. This is today would just be classified as an F bass valve trombone. And if this looks familiar, it's because the Thine brothers in the 50s took this design and bent it where my fist is, and so that the valves are pointing at an angle down, and added two more valves and put a peg on the bottom and called it a cimbasso, which it's not. A cimbasso is a hold combination wood brass instrument. Verdi liked the cimbasso and preferred it to the new tuba, as he referred to it. And gorgeous sounding instrument. There was a guy playing one on YouTube, and I haven't been able to find it. I don't know if the video has been taken down, but the guy had gorgeous tone. Rob Stewart used to make them, and they're sort of have a habit of ending up in displays and not being played. So wow. Now this it came with its original mouthpiece, which was there are tons of these around, and they very rarely come with the original mouthpiece. This one did, which is why I bought it. I'll look at does that show up well at all? Yeah, yeah, it doesn't show up that well. But when you have it in your hand, there's lots of beautiful scrimshaw on there. Just beautiful engraving work, and this is a really nice mouthpiece. In fact, it feels a lot like a Doug Yo Doug, uh, a bass trombone mouthpiece, which is, I don't know if Doug knew about these. He probably did. Um, but they're similar and excellent mouthpiece, considering it was made 1845, 1945, 155, 65, 70, 175, 6, 7, 8, 178 years ago. And boy, oh boy. Anyway, um, now, as I say, this thing is in F and it's all wrapped up to shorten it. And this one needs a lot of work yet. This has been popped out and it's got to be taken apart and resoldered and have a bunch of stuff done to it. But it was a wreck when I got it. Somebody had jammed a Bakelite rod about yay long into this part right through the valve block. And this thing had been a wall ornament in a German pub until they renovated the place not that many years ago for well over 100 years. So that's probably why it's in as good condition as it is. Um, what else? This horn is a good player, by the way. When I finally get around to making noise on these things for you, I'll play something or other, probably something like Shenandoah, so pretty. um, so, but this is called an F coil contrabass trombone. As I said, uh, today they would refer to it as an F bass. They had a different idea about what constituted a bass instrument in those days. A bass was just low B flat or F or G in those days. Now, in 19th century orchestras, these were very popular, as were the F slide trombone with a little handle and the G slide trombone with a little handle. The Fs are very hard to come by because guys hang on to them for playing period music. I know a couple of guys who are, if I ever come across an F slide trombone, to let them know right away, they'll come wherever they are, they'll come get it because they want it. Um, but I haven't come across one yet. G basses, they're still making that. Well, you can get replicas. There are guys making G basses with a handle and F basses with a handle. But now, if this looks suspiciously like a valved bugle, if you took this part off and stuck a mouthpiece on it, you'd have a valve bugle. Isn't that quaint? And attached to that valve bugle is a lot of cylindrical tubing. So anyway, this and its slide counterpart is what supplied the bass part in 19th century orchestral music and in brass bands. They made lots of these for brass bands and for uh, symphony orchestras. So there you have it. There are two versions of the 19th century trombone. The valves are off getting new springs. There are still some guys And one of these days, when I get the horns back restored, I'm going to give a shout out to the guys who make and restore uh, the old brass instruments. They're far and wide scattered. Some of them don't even know each other. But without them, we wouldn't be able to restore these old horns. So 12 thumbs up, count them, 12 for the guys restoring these old pieces of history.